Hello guys. So along with this deck tech, we're gonna do, a common version of playtesting, but I don't have a partner here, which is probably a problem you'll run into a lot. I mean, you can't be around your friends all the time. So let me pick up these cards here from where I did the deck tech and shuffle our deck, and we'll kind of run through this. By the way, seeing as we're speaking to people who could be completely green to Magic, what I'm doing right here is called a table shuffle. I take the entire deck in my hand and make 6 piles in front of me. It's a 60 card deck, 6 piles, 10 cards in each pile. Then I take one pile at a time, or one pile at a time, and make 2 piles. And then I shuffle those together. This is probably the safest way to avoid mana grouping and, like, for example, as you've seen in the first part of the video, every card in the deck was just separated by title, or, all 4 copies of one card all together. All 4 copies of the next card all together, all the mana all together. You don't want that. You want to get a variety of your spells during a game, and of course the mana to cast them. So you gotta make sure you're sufficiently randomized before beginning a game. And now that hopefully we've done that, penny sleeves. We'll draw out a hand of 7 cards. Okay. This is my hand. Legion Loyalist, Dangerous Wager, 5 Alarm Fire, Foundry Street Denizen, a 2nd Legion Loyalist, 1 Mountain, and a Hellraiser Goblin. Now most decks, you don't want to keep a hand with anything less than 2 mana. This deck, on the other hand, especially seeing as we have 2 Legion Loyalists and a Foundry Street Denizen, we have 3 plays that we can make off of just 1 mana. This deck also, seeing as there's no other person to decide who goes first with, you pretty much just simulate it to the deck. And seeing as this deck isn't quick-paced, aggressive deck, we're going to simulate off of the play, meaning as if we go first. And the first player does not draw a card. So we're going to start with our hand of 7 and play our mana first, tap that mana, and play Legion Loyalist. There's no opponent to attack, but we're going to tap him as if we did. This is just to get an idea, see what cards you would want to play in what order, on what turn, etc., etc. Do Zealous Conscripts for turn 2. Therefore, we'll just play another Legion Loyalist and tap them both. Next we draw a Furious Resistance. So seeing as you got to kind of think about a game going on when you do this, we're gonna not play the Foundry Street Denizen in our hand, which also costs 1 mana. We're gonna hold that, and as we swing, to simulate our opponent having a turn 2 play and being able to block us, we're gonna tap our 1 mana and discard our Furious Resistance as if we were blocked, gave a creature +3/+0 in first strike, and destroyed their creature that way. We finally get our 2nd mana. We'll drop that, and then also drop our Foundry Street Denizen. Looking back, this isn't a deck I've played with a lot, but looking back, I'm starting to think maybe I could have dropped the Loyalist on turn 1, just to push the damage, but then the Foundry Street Denizen. Because then, this way, now that I've got 3 creatures out, I could have dropped the Legion Loyalist third, the second one third, and Legion Loyalist having haste, I could have immediately triggered my battalion effect. Instead, I'll just go with the play and attack. So we're getting to the 4th or 5th turn now, and so you really don't want to, I mean, you can't simulate an entire game. You could be counting your damage off to the side, but Drew Goblin Arsonist, and we'll play that. You really don't want to simulate past 8 to 10 turns, because a game's already gonna usually be greatly one side or the other, especially with this deck, because it's such a low cost, high aggressive, quick damage deck. So we'll do a few more turns and then we'll cut it short. Goblin Arsonist would have gave Foundry Street Denizen +1/+0, so we get to attack with Battalion now. Honestly, it's probably safe to say that our Loyalist would be removed by some point after we start triggering our Battalion. Just for accuracy, I'm going to go ahead and discard them and see how we would play without them. Furious Resistance. With only these 2/1/1s on the field, I think this turn would be safe to pass. But to simulate my opponent's turn, I would tap my 1 mana and play this Furious Resistance, as if I blocked and killed this creature that way. Then on my next turn, 3rd Mountain. Now, here we have 2 options. Now we've finally gotten our 3rd mana. We have 5-Alarm Fire and Hellraiser Goblin. 5-Alarm Fire is one of the most important cards of this deck, so we're going to want to play it first here. Also, Hellraiser Goblin gives all my creatures haste and makes them attack each turn if able. So it's going to give me more opportunities to trigger 5-Alarm Fire's blaze counters. So we're going to tap 3 mana and play that. After we untap, we draw a 2nd Dangerous Wager. Not ideal, because when you play everything else in your hand, you're still going to have 1 Dangerous Wager. But not terrible. And then we drop our Hellraiser Goblin. And hopefully we would have 3 creatures to swing with. We'll put 3 counters on the 5-Alarm Fire, because that's pretty difficult to keep up with otherwise. And we're only going to do 2 more turns here. This turn, Mountain. Attack. It's probably safe to say in 2 turns of attacking, probably the first turn in a normal game, these 1/1s are going to get smoked. But maybe along the line they'd do some damage. So we'll remove the 5 blaze counters and leave 1. Last turn, we draw a mountain. That lets us tap 5, play the Zealous Conscripts we've had in our hand the whole time, and ideally we would be taking a creature here and attacking with 3 creatures, which would get our blaze counters up to 4. Now, at this point, the reason why I'm thinking about ending this simulation is we've attacked multiple times with 1/1s, 2/1s, 2/2s, and now a 3/3, plus whatever you would have got to take from your opponent. We've got 4 blaze counters on 5-Alarm Fire. That accounts for 10 damage when it triggers again. So maybe we'll just look at our next card and figure out what it'd be from there. Okay, we've got a mountain, which is perfectly fine to play Dangerous Wager. You look at 2 more creatures, which case you would play your Mog Flunkies, attack the 3 dudes, and at this point, you would probably either be at the loss or with the win. So that's a little, not only an example of a way to play test a deck. It's brand new. Maybe you're not confident enough in it to play against any of your friends. Maybe you don't have any friends around. But, you know, obviously it's nowhere near as good as playing an actual game with it, but it just lets you know, for example, say I didn't have enough mana in this deck. Well, I did miss a lot of mana drops, but that's okay with this kind of deck. But if it was just completely unplayable because there wasn't enough mana, and I was sitting there drawing turn 5, I've still got 1 mana. Turn 6, I've still got 1 mana. Turn 7, still didn't draw mana. That would hint to me, even without somebody else playing against me, that I need to do something to fix that problem in the deck. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.